Hello, my name is Badi Foster, and I am the president of the Phelps Stokes. I am honored, I have great pleasure, and I feel obligated to welcome you to a very important conference involving young people, the future, entrepreneurship, and agriculture. Phelps Stokes is celebrating its 100th birthday. You are celebrating your first birthday. Let me share with you some of the lessons we have learned over the past 100 years that you might consider as you think of your first year. One of the lessons that we learned is that if in fact you are to meet the needs of those people least well served, you must find a way to lift them up through education and through leadership. Now, how does one do that? The best example or metaphor for leadership, education, and development is the act of being a gardener. As most of you know, a gardener is responsible for nurturing the seeds and the plants every day, from the time the seed is put in the ground to the time that it develops, and finally to the moment when you can harvest the fruit. Now, there are many factors that contribute to whether or not the seed produces a wonderful harvest. But we do know this: if you do not have a gardener who has a vision, who has commitment, who has discipline, who gets up every day and looks at the garden and answers the question, how may I be of service to the plants that are growing? If you have that kind of person, then in fact, we know you will have a great harvest. Now, human beings are not plants, but in many ways we share those characteristics of the need for nurturing, which is what a gardener does. He or she nurtures the plants. If in fact we can produce new generations of young people who are prepared to create and seize the opportunities to be of service to their communities in terms of innovating, coming up with new ideas in order to create a better environment, then in fact we will be successful. Now, we would hope that as a result of this conference, you would help reduce poverty, particularly in rural areas. When Phelps Stokes was created 100 years ago, we confronted problems of severe poverty for two populations. The first population were the descendants of African slaves who were brought to the United States. Some of them were my ancestors. Once we received our freedom in 1863, we had only 50 years, not even that, to try to get educated and to build a better society. Unfortunately, many of our young people, particularly in the rural areas, they had no chance to have access to good schools, to good health care, and so as a result they suffered. Phelps Stokes was created to meet the needs of the rural poor through education, through training, through leadership. We created many colleges. Most of those colleges had titles of agriculture, mechanic, or technical. And lastly, we connected these colleges to what was then called the National Business League, which was a network of African American who were followers of Booker T. Washington. And their philosophy was, if we can produce economic wealth and growth and share it, that is the best path towards freedom, particularly from the conditions of slavery. The same conditions obtained or were found among American Indians. And so Phelps Stokes spent much time helping to educate and train young indigenous leaders to, in fact, build new communities to preserve their cultures and to create a better America, a better opportunity for people in Indian country. Now, we did work similarly in Africa, West Africa, in Liberia, South Africa. The point I'm trying to make is that the road that you are now embarking upon is a road that many of us have traveled. And so therefore, anything that we can do to provide you with advice, counsel, encouragement, we are obligated to do that because your job is to continue the journey for the next stage. Let me suggest to you that in fact poverty has less to do with the absence of material wealth and has more to do with the absence of values and strong relationships. That is why I was shocked once when I was visiting Colombia, the Pacific coast, and I was having lunch with a group of very poor farmers. And they were complaining that they did not have enough money to buy a new engine for their mill, for their rice. And they were beginning to feel discouraged. And then someone said, you know, I know some people who are so poor, all they have is money. Well, I was confused because I thought money meant that it was impossible to be poor. That is not the case. Money cannot buy you love. Money cannot buy somebody who cares for you. Money cannot motivate somebody to share what they have. It is the human relationships that create the conditions of wealth, true wealth. So therefore, you have been selected to come to a conference of leaders. We don't know if you are leaders. We know that you have the potential to become leaders, but you do not know a leader until she has led. Leadership is ex post facto. It's after the fact. So we would hope that during the next 3 or 4 days, you would take the opportunity to build relationships with each other, to share ideas, to step up, to create and ask new and better questions, and come up with ideas. If you do that, then Phelps Stokes is prepared to meet you, and we will find a way through technology or other resources to build your network so that eventually you will have an impact worldwide. Let me close on these 2 observations. Unity and harmony are the fundamental principles upon which you can build progress and true justice. When I say unity, it's to recognize that each of us are more closely related to each other than we think. We are all leaves of the same tree. We're all waves in the same ocean. So therefore, let me encourage you to take full advantage of the opportunities which you will create at this conference to learn more about yourself and to learn more about other people, and then how together can you create the kind of world that we want and that we deserve. May God bless you.